River Area Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum for Sherburne County Commissioner. My name is Kevin Bergstrom, and on behalf of the Elk River Area Chamber of Commerce Government Relations Committee, I am your moderator for tonight's event. I'd like to start by saying thank you to the City of Elk River for allowing us this space and the recording equipment for our forum. And I'd also like to thank the candidates for being here tonight to help us provide important information for voters before they head to the polls. Tonight's event is being broadcast live and will be rebroadcast on Elk River TV, channel 180, as well as the Chamber's website and social media channels. The Elk River Area Chamber does not assume any party affiliation, nor do we endorse any candidate. We are hosting this forum to provide information about the candidates to the general public. Since this is a public information forum and not a campaign event, we respectfully request that all candidates and audience members would refrain from applause or comments that would cause a disruption during the live broadcast. I'm joined tonight by Melissa Firmoil, who is a member of the Chamber's Board of Directors. She will be the timekeeper, and each candidate will be given 2 minutes to answer the question. Melissa will provide you with a signal when you have 30 seconds left to wrap up your thoughts or comment. And when you see the red signal, that means you've gone over the time limit and should stop immediately. Each candidate will answer the same questions. We will rotate the order of who answers the questions first, second, and so on. And at the end, you'll have 2 minutes to wrap up your thoughts or cover any topics that we did not ask you. We have a full hour, and therefore I will introduce each of you just before we get started. But first, are there any questions? All right. Going from the audience's left to right, we have in District 1 the incumbent Barbara Brandt, and we have the challenger Andrew Hulse. In District 3, the incumbent Tim Dolan, and the challenger Ann Kashesky. And in District 5, Lisa Phoebe, the incumbent, and Brian Lawrence, the challenger. Okay, so we'll get started. Our first question has to do with county mandates. The county is responsible to deliver programs on a local level. Before I start, Barb, this one is coming to you first in District 1. The county is responsible to deliver programs on a local level by both state and federal partners. What, in your opinion, is the best way to work with state and federal officials from both parties on issues that are mandated to the counties to deliver?
Well, thank you for that question. As a county board, it's really important that we do have close ties with both our federal and our state legislators because of the laws that they enact, and we are the ones who put it into effect. We in the county have some direct relationships. We like to meet with our elected officials, both at the state and national level as able, and talk to them about our strategies for the coming year and what is working, what they've passed in the past and how it worked well for us or what it needed to help with. We also work through different organizations like the Association of Minnesota Counties, like I'm on the Health and Human Services Committee, and we work closely with groups that deal with that kind of legislation. We also have NACO, which is the National County Organization, and a couple other ones. So we have those relationships, and we regularly meet with those individuals on that group so that we can enact things that help our consumers in our county. We need to, one of the things we need to make sure of is that we have funding to implement whatever it is that they have enacted, and we can talk to them about those issues and make sure that they understand the challenges that would form if we didn't have enough funding. But we do work really hard to maintain those relationships.
Great, thank you. We'll move to Andrew Hulse. Now, this is the same question as we go around the whole room. If you do need it repeated, feel free to ask. But Andrew Hulse.
Thank you. So I agree. I think it's important that you have strong relationships at both the state and national level. And I've worked for a number of years with both our local representatives, with former Representative Zerwas, with Representative Novotny, with Senator Kiffmeyer over the years. But I also have worked at the national level. And I've noticed over the years, it's very important to be able to work in a bipartisan fashion because different bills get sponsored by different parties. As an example, at one point I worked on the space program, and we had to reenact a program to replace the shuttle, and there wasn't a clear path forward, and it was important for us to work with members of Congress from both parties, as well as from Charlie Bolden, who was the NASA administrator, and the other departments of NASA, in order to enact that program. And so having these strong relationships, understanding how government works at the state level, at the local level, and at the federal level is extremely important. You have to make sure that you're at the table so that things like funding get accounted for, and so that you're able to push forward the needs of the district and of the constituents, because those sometimes get lost at various levels of government.
Thank you. Same question, moving to District 3, Tim Dole.
Thank you. And it's a really good question, and I'm glad that Andrew brought up the need to be bipartisan in this, and I think that's something that you'll find over time working in government as administrations change, elected officials change. We are lucky to be relatively consistent here where we are with reps like Nick Zerwasa was here for a while, and now Paul coming in, and Mary Kiffmeyer, all great people. But I think the key there is relationships and a consistent communication. If you look at what unfunded mandates have done to a county budget over the last 10 years, if you isolate just Health and Human Services and take about 8 of those programs, you're talking about $1 million tax shift from the state government onto the county over those 8 years. And that's stuff that kind of flies under the radar during partisan politics at the state level. They have their sound bites, they have the things that they need to do for the party, which I completely understand. But one of the important things at the county level is that we keep our eye on that ultimate cost to the taxpayers. And when those shifts start to happen, a little over time, like I said last year, Health and Human Services alone, over almost $1 million in state programs that the cost has now been shifted onto the county over that time. So making sure that we keep that data in front of our reps. Everybody has a different communication style, and we have to learn that as those people change. And I think if we can continue to do that, both as elected officials and the staffs we have, we'll succeed in keeping those mandates to a minimum.
Thank you. On to Ann Kashensky. I knew I'd do it once. Kashesky, sorry.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for the question. I appreciate this. As I'm learning about the county, I thought it would be good as I'm learning, to talk to the voters about, what is a mandate? Do we all know what that is? It is nothing really more than an order. Sometimes that order is coming down from the state government or a state agency, and like everyone else has said here, they're not always funded, and that's important. The unfunded mandates cause burdens to our county. Some mandates have merit and are of a service to you and I, or a benefit. Some do not. In either case, if Sherburne County is mandated to do a task that they do not have without the proper funding, I would then immediately reach out to the folks that I have good relationships with, some of which would include Senator Kiffmeyer, Senator Matthews, and Representative Mecklin. Sherburne County residents should not be on the hook to pay for unfunded mandates. And I think we can probably all agree, especially now and on a statewide level, not all mandates are favorable or have merit. So to close on that, unfunded mandates are a cancer, can be a cancer to our counties. They eat up budgets and put a burden on taxpayers. I will oppose where needed, and I will act appropriately as I should on your behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to District 5, and the question we are discussing is, what is your opinion What, in your opinion, is the best way to work with state and federal officials from both parties on issues that are mandated to the counties to deliver? Lisa Phoebe.
Thank you. Thanks for that question. It's a big part of our work, unfunded mandates. They've been around forever, and I think they're going to continue for a while. I think a thing that is key with this is our relationships with our state and our federal delegation. We've worked really hard over the last 4 years to establish a legislative platform that we can share that's Sherburne County specific with our legislators on the state and the federal level. We've invited them in when they're out of session to come and meet with us. And that was something that didn't happen in the past. So I think just that in itself really improved our relationship with our legislators. Up where I live, I've got 2 senators and 2 representatives just in my little district, and I've got very good relationships with Senator Matthews and Senator Michelle Benson, as well as Representative Doubt and Representative Sandra Erickson. Some of the mandates are definitely don't hold a lot of merit, as has been said. Something that happened over this last year, I was invited to be part of the Blue Ribbon Committee for the Association of Minnesota Counties, and that group was charged with looking at the COVID situation, which happened, was unprecedented. We, had to act differently really quickly. So there were almost 60 plus waivers that were given just to Health and Human Services that addressed some of these mandates. And what we found is some of them worked really well. Some were better for the residents and the clients. It was safety for staff, and we saved money on some of them. So we are now pausing a bit, not just jumping back to business as usual, and we're inviting our state and federal legislators to really look at that with us also. And it's through those relationships, through the Association of Minnesota Counties, through the MICA State Association, that we're be able to really be advocates for those mandates.
Thank you. District 5, Challenger Brian Lawrence.
Thank you so much. I've had a chance to, the privilege of being a part of a family farming business farm for many, many years, in which I spent many hours down at the state capitol talking about different issues affecting agriculture with an organization called Farm Bureau, and got to know several different senators and representatives on both sides of the aisle, which we have to work with to, as they talk about issues affecting agriculture. This is no different. Mandates are no different than a regulation, and it's the state or federal governments regulating the local government's ability to govern. And we have to be careful about that. We got to ask some tough questions. We got to really look at every mandate that's set down, every regulation that's set down. Is it beneficial for the residents of Sherburne County? Is it effective for the residents of Sherburne County? Is it something that is even applicable to Sherburne County? As a Baldwin Township supervisor, we've had a couple of those things come through in front of us before our township board. And we asked those questions and found out that there were several of them didn't apply to Baldwin Township. The state realized that, and we're not made to abide by the mandate and regulations that they thought were applicable to Baldwin Township. Sherburne County is no different. As a county commissioner, we have to ask those questions, and in some cases, we have to say no. We have to hit the pause button and say, this does not apply to Sherburne County. This is something that, one, if it's not funded, definitely is a huge red flag as a county commissioner to stand up and say, listen, we cannot add this to our budget at this point in time, especially given the circumstances that we've seen our nation and our country and our county go through in the last few weeks. We really need to take a stand and evaluate every one on its merits, and we see which ones are actually applicable to Sherburne County and of value to be implemented. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to question 2. This is going to be started with District 3. That question is, it is in relation to repurposing ag land. There is increasing demand on agricultural land to be used for solar energy production or other economic development uses. Do you believe there should be a limit placed on repurposing ag land? Why or why not? Mr. Dolan.
Thanks for the question, Kevin. This one, it's kind of a simple question in my book. It comes down to landowner rights, which I'm big on. As a lot of people know, land use in the county and in cities for that matter, the use is guided by a comp plan. And that comp plan, typically they're done every 10 years, and the community does a ton of outreach and gets input on what that land should be guided and where it should be used based on data from the community, data from economic development stuff, and transportation. Personally, if a farmer owns land and the farmer wants to develop that land, as long as it fits within the comp plan, I see no problem with it. If that land is guided to remain agricultural for the foreseeable future, I think we need to stick to that comp plan. But it's really a simple question as far as I'm concerned, as far as people's ability to use their land within the guidelines that we give them, and that decision is up to them.
Thank you. Moving on to Ann Krzyzewski.
Thank you. Another great question and an opportunity for me to learn a little bit more about our county and how it works. When we talk about repurposing ag land, we must first remember to always respect private property rights of all property owners. If a private property owner would like to repurpose it, they should be able to do so as they see fit. So again, I respect all private property rights. If we're talking about a mandate, a government mandate, a state or federal mandate, to repurpose private ag land to, let's say, solar or wind, I would then have to say no. I would oppose that. This is your land, and I will stand up for you. We are in Sherburne County in the top 5 nationally as a potato and poultry production and producers. This is who Sherburne County is. Again, I thank you for this question because it brings to light that just 25 years ago, farming was our biggest industry. 10 years ago, energy was our biggest industry. Today, government is our biggest industry. So again, I respect private property rights. You can count on me to expand personal liberty on a county level on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to District 5, same question, Lisa Foley.
Got the mask, the glasses, the nose is running. So
I'm with you.
quite a day. Thank you for that question. I too agree. As far as repurposing ag land, for me that starts with the farmer. You know, we need to respect their rights, their land, it's their land. So that's, I would totally continue to protect the farmer and the agriculture people. It's a very important part of our county. About every 3 to 5 years, our staff goes out and talks with our cities and our townships to look at our comp plan to see, I mean, townships are closer to the people than we are. They know a lot about what those individuals want. We need to partner with them as well as our cities to work up our comp plan and to be respectful. And if you look at our county, the different sides of the county have a different way that we approach our land use. Over on the Baldwin-Livonia side, where we're from, we have many more developments. We've had people over there, the townships have been okay over the years with a bit more development. If you look over on Commissioner Schmiesing's side, a lot less, and the townships have really wanted to not encourage as much. They have a lot more solar on that side, but there's different reasons for that. But I said, bottom line, it's up to a farmer what they want to do with their personal property within also partnering with the townships and the cities on what they see the growth in their area and what it needs to look like there, that we work on our plan overall with how we grow and develop in Sherburne.
Thank you. District 5, Brian Lawrence.
Great question. Excellent question. Being a farmer for one. And then on top of it, I chair the Planning and Zoning Commission Committee for Sherburne County. We make these decisions on a monthly basis. We see these requests on a monthly basis. It's not just solar, but the repurposing of agricultural land includes housing, developments coming in. It involves set aside, Open space, environmental set aside, it does involve solar as well. And first and foremost, every decision I've made has been based on personal property rights. The person that owns a property coming and making a request that is allowed within the ordinances that we have in Sherburne County. And that's the first and foremost, is standing up for personal property rights. Secondly, let's take a look at solar, because that's been the most controversial as of recent. We've had a lot of people come and testify before our committee on the overgrowth of solar. Not that agricultural land was being utilized as solar, but the overabundance of solar panels being put in certain areas. There's a reason for some of that, because that's where the transmission lines run. But remember the first question we had? Mandates? What do you think caused the demand for solar power originally, and now has put the pressure on agricultural land to be put into? It was a mandate that power companies move to solar power, wind power. Thus, Sherburne County is seeing a huge influx of solar panels being put up on agricultural land. You can discuss that another, but it was a mandate that started that off. And so, yeah, we got to take a look at this. We have ordinances in that allow a lot of things to happen in Sherburne County. Some of our counties' general rule, like Baldwin Township, Livonia, the eastern side, the western side is more agriculture, 1 house per 40. So even have development regulations on that side over there as well, on the west side. And so as we make decisions and as we look at this, remember, every decision has a repercussion. The mandate on the energy, on the power and the energy producers caused the solar to start consuming more agricultural land. And so bottom line is looking at the property rights and what the owners of the property are requesting to do first and foremost. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question. The question we're discussing is, do you believe there should be a limit placed on repurposing ag land? Why or why not? District 1, Barb Brandt.
Hi. Thank you for the question. I had to smile a little bit when Brian was talking about being a farmer, because I live on ag land too. And it's unique to District 1 is that we are all the land is in the city of Elk River. So it's really beyond the county issues, it's the city issue. But personally, I obviously would support the farmer and their choices. But if I were on the county board and I were voting on something that was outside of the city, I would reflect the discussion that we've already had now, that it's the farmer that needs to be able to make a decision. It needs to be within the comp plan. And the options out there we've talked about a little bit. Some of them could possibly be housing along with solar, because Sherburne County does need to grow housing, and so that's a legitimate thing to look at. But again, it's up to the individual property owner to make decisions about what they want to do with their land.
Thank you. Rounding out the question, Andrew Hulse, also District 1.
Great. Well, also, thanks for the question. I think it's a good question, and I think, and I agree that it comes down to property rights, and that farmers or property owners should have the rights to develop their land and do the things they need to do in order to advance their personal interest in land. It's their land. But I think one of the things we need to look strongly at is giving those farmers and those landowners options. Because what I expect is going to happen over the next several years is I think we're going to see a decentralization of business and residents out of the MSP and out of the inner ring suburbs out to the outer counties. And we need to make ourselves competitive so that when individuals are looking and businesses are looking at where they're going to invest, that Sherburne County would be at the top of the list. And right now, we're just not competitive. We've gone from being one of the lower taxed property tax counties to one of the highest. And we need to get the property tax structure back in line so that we're competitive with our surrounding counties. And that includes at the county level, that includes at the school district level, and that includes at the city level. But we have to readjust our property structure so that those farmers will have options. So that when, as I said, when businesses are looking to relocate, when we're looking to develop housing in Sherburne County, that this is where the residents want to relocate to, as opposed to those around us.
Thank you. We're all ready to question 3. What do you think of that? Question 3 does have to do with North Star expansion. We're starting this question with District 5. The question is, A feasibility study connecting the North Star commuter rail service to St. Cloud was recently completed. Is the North Star expansion to St. Cloud project something you would support, and why or why not? Lisa Phobie.
Thank you. Another good question. Currently, North Star's in very rough shape. I mean, with the onset of COVID and our situation, people working from home, not commuting to the cities, ridership is down 96%. Prior to COVID, ridership never has met the goals we were hoping for with North Star. That's a reality. Conversations are happening around them. I would say at this point, I could not support expansion to St. Cloud or putting money toward it. Something like North Star, there's just so many challenges. Ridership isn't there, never has been. Not sure that it will be. The challenges of it not having its own track is almost a setup to fail. Burlington Northern pretty much dictates when we can use that track. And if you've ever tried to have a conversation or a meeting with Burlington Northern, it's really difficult to move that mountain. So there's just so many challenges that I just think from the get-go, since it didn't go to St. Cloud from the start, we've just never met the goals that we were hoping for. And at this point, I believe we need to stay at the table to be in the conversation as Sherburne County, because you don't want to be absent from the table, because then they'll make some decisions that might include you. So stay at the table, keep the conversations going, continue to manage our investment. We've made some good choices with the local option sales tax, so we've taken that out of the tax rolls of our Sherburne County residents. But at this point, I would not be comfortable unless the federal and the state government are going to bring a big chunk of cash to us to do it. So partnering with feds and states. So there's a lot of ifs. But right now, I would have to say, no, I can't support an expansion.
Thank you. Same question, 5th District, Brian Lawrence.
Absolutely not. If you remember originally when North Star was talked about it, all those things were talked about. Ridership won't support the rail coming to Elk River. Possible downturn in the economy, just like we've seen. Everything has been talked about prior to this. So, and not that these commissioners were part of that decision-making process, but the ones that were knew up front that it wasn't going to pay for itself. It wasn't going to be financially feasible even to bring it to Elk River. We've invested a lot of dollars, taxpayer dollars, from Sherburne County into this that doesn't pay for itself, and now we're finding out that it's still not. So absolutely not. The other thing is, talk about COVID a little bit. It is going to completely change how business is done. 96% down on ridership. How many of those individuals, how many of those businesses are going to find out that their employees are more productive from home? There's a cost savings from working at home, and yet still getting the output that they need and the job done that they need done. They might not need that office space in Minneapolis. They may use a home office, which puts more pressure on, we talked about agricultural land, put more pressure on housing out in this area, or even maybe local, a smaller business they'll set up, or office space out in this area here. And so as far as North Star goes, no Sherburne County tax dollars should ever be spent on that, should have never been spent on that, should have been funded by outside sources completely. So I would not support that at this point in time. The other thing is let's talk about hypothetically, if it does go that way. We just had a question about the repurposing of agricultural lands. We're going to see more effect on repurposing agricultural lands if that rail does start to go north again, and we become more of a center hub, or more individuals are going to be looking for housing in this area. Businesses will be looking for housing in this area, but no taxpayer dollars from Sherburne County should ever be spent on it. Thank you.
Same question, District 1, Barbarant.
Well, I think I agree with what everyone has said, is that as an idea, it was a good idea, because it came along with some, reduction of gasoline and fumes and things like that, and taking the train would be better in those instances. But we don't have the volume. I've ridden on the train myself a fair amount when I worked in the metro area, but even then it didn't have timing of the route back and forth that worked really well for me. But down 96% in the amount of people riding it now is dramatic, obviously. And we don't have the ability, because we're sharing a track with Burlington, who owns the track, to really have the number of the trains going back and forth to make it usable for people who want to go maybe in the middle of the day and go down to go shopping or something like that, down to the metro area. And to change any of that and having our own track, the cost would be astronomical. So I don't think that there's any way at this point that it's something that's viable. And again, I think we need to sit at the table and listen to the discussions, but unless something changes significantly, it can't be, in my mind at least, a viable option for us to pursue.
Thank you. Also, District 1, Andrew Hulse.
Yeah, so a simple answer is no, I wouldn't support it. And the reason is as we've talked about before, ridership, the original plan was we wouldn't even consider the expansion to St. Cloud until we reached ridership of about 4,500 passengers a day. And we topped out at about 2,800 passengers a day, and that was before COVID hit. One of the challenges is if you have a world-class rail system, your fare box returns, which is the amount of your operating expenses that the fares cover, right? Fare box returns for a world-class system, such as in Tokyo or as in Hong Kong, run about 120 to 125%, which means they make more money on fares than they do on the operating expenses. If you look at most European countries that have a good rail system in their major cities, they run roughly between 70 and 100% of fare box returns. The U.S., we're terrible at this. But in general, in the metro cities of like Chicago, Washington, and New York, they run right around 50%. So they pay about half of their fares or half of their operating expenses with fare box returns. The North Star is 16%. It's no wonder you can't get Burlington Northern to the table, because they don't care, because the taxpayers are paying for the trains to run empty. It's a ridiculous use of taxpayer money. As a matter of fact, $1.4 million each year goes from Sherburne County to the operating expenses of the North Star. And this is an area where we've got to talk about, we've got to make some trade-offs, and we've got to make some decisions, because we do have to bring our tax structure back in line, and we can't waste money on something like this.
Thank you. The question we're discussing is North Star expansion to St. Cloud a project that you would support? Why or why not? And we're on to District 3, to Tim Dolan.
I'll jump on the bandwagon. No. This
Don't you mean the train car?
that too. No, it's great for Twins games, but it's a real expensive way to get there. But no one sitting up here was a part of that decision. Us as a board, we're kind of saddled with that. It's more or less been a boondoggle since 2009 when it went live. The old saying, when you bring on these consultants to do these studies is, tell me what your goal is and I'll give you the data to back it up, which is one of the reasons why when this current study that just went through the legislature, when it was even being talked about, I vocally opposed even studying it. We're so far away from this being feasible in any way, shape, or form. The money that was spent to study it was a ridiculous waste. As Andrew hit on, roughly $1.4, $1.6 million a year is the cost of operating that line for Sherburne County taxpayers. Our current board, knowing that we were saddled with that, made the decision to shift to a local option sales tax to mitigate some of that cost. So now about 30% of that comes from outside Sherburne County to fund the operations of that, which is putting a Band-Aid on a dam. It's just scratching the itch. But now I think, I don't want to say lucky for COVID, but because of COVID, it's pushed everybody to the table. And now we're able to have some really good, deep discussions about whether this needs to continue this way, the whole project needs to be mothballed, what the costs and benefits are going forward for the system as a whole. I'm against any type of expansion. and potentially against it coming back in the form that it was prior to COVID.
Thank you. And finishing off this question is District 3, Ann Kashesky.
Well, I must have picked the short straw. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir now that we're all in agreement on this one, I think. Yeah, again, thank you for the question. It's a big, big topic. It's been a big topic in our county from its inception. From its inception, the North Star has never reached its ridership goals. So expansion at this time would never solve that. I like trains. I have no problem with trains, but when it becomes an epic waste of your money, I will always stand in opposition. As of this past July, like Lisa mentioned, ridership is down 96%, heavily subsidized and coming in at $592 a person each way. I am not, at this time, on board, pun intended, in furthering this boondoggle. Just last spring, there was discussion about funding a feasibility study at $650,000 to talk about what we already here know. Former Representative Zerwas so eloquently stated on the floor that we'd be better off purchasing each rider a brand new Lexus and filling it with gas. Thank you for that. It was very powerful, and it stuck with me. And still having money left over. If it doesn't make money, it loses your money, it loses my money. I oppose that. I cannot support that. Additionally, if I was elected as your commissioner, I would work to keep Sherburne County free from any kind of Met Council jurisdiction. And better yet, I would propose that we take this wasted money and allocate it on much needed roads and bridges. Thank you.
Thank you. Those keeping score at home, that was not expanding North Star 6, expanding North Star 0. So it's like a Minnesota Twins playoff game right there.
Air that in St. Cloud a few times, will you?
Yeah. So thank you. That actually ends our question portion. We're going to go around here in a bit where you can finish off any thoughts that you have, or maybe go a little deeper on a topic that's specific to what you're really interested in. I'm going to ask our timekeeper to change the time to 3 minutes so that you can go a little bit deeper on these thoughts. We're going to go back to District 1, and we did choose that by a dice roll. I have a witness, so you do get to start twice, but that's because you won the dice roll. So Barbara at District 1, any wrapping up thoughts or topics of your interest?
Thank you. There's just one area that I think I would like to be able to draw people's attention to, and that is how our tax rate over the last 7 years has gone down in the Sherburne County budget. The tax rate is the percentage of the revenue that we get in that pays for whatever. And our taxes were 7 years ago, the rate was 54.420. And this year it will be 47.390. So we've been working as a board every year to do that, so that we work closely with the directors of the different programs and look at our revenue and figure out how we can continue to lower the tax rate to the betterment of everyone, because we don't have to pay as high a tax rate. So when we're looking at taxes, sometimes your taxes are higher than what we want them to be, but you have to remember that taxes are a combination of city, county, school district, and the county is working really hard to do our part to keep it as low as we can.
All right. Thank you, Barb Brandt, District 1. So we'll move to Andrew Hulse. Closing thoughts.
All right, well, I'd like to thank Debbie. Kevin, I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank the Chamber, and I'd like to thank my fellow participants today. While there's a lot to do, I do have 3 main areas of focus that I'd like to touch on. The first is we've got to get our property taxes back in line. to attract residents and to attract business investment. If we do this right, as we attract more residents and more businesses, we're able to spread the tax burden over a slightly larger population and more business investment. Now, Barb's correct that taxes are the county and the school district and the cities. And I think it's important that each entity work together to bring that tax rate down, because right now we're no longer competitive. We've gone from being one of the lower tax counties to one of the highest. As a matter of fact, our effective property tax rate is in the upper 72nd percentile of the state. And if you look, we're in the upper 88% of the country. We're simply not competitive compared to our neighboring counties. And I know you'll hear, as Barb just mentioned, that the tax rate has been reduced over the last 6 years, and that's true. They've reduced it about 1% each year. But that's a little bit of smoke and mirrors, because there's two pieces to what you pay in your taxes. It's the tax rate and it's the property values. And the property values have gone up much higher than the rate reduction was taken into account. And people aren't fooled by this. They see it when they open their bill. As a matter of fact, in this board's 4-year term, the first 2 years they raised taxes more than the previous 8 years combined. And they've continued at that rate. They've raised on an individual household basis, the individual property taxes at the county level has been raised nearly 20%. We have to reverse that. We have to instill budget discipline, and we have to get our tax structure back in line to be competitive with those counties around us. Secondly, we need to protect our individual freedoms. I don't think we can divert and say that it's a state issue or it's a federal issue. It's my belief that every level of government needs to protect the Constitution. I think it's important to have a board that's willing to take a stand. A key example of this is I think we need to make Sherburne County a Second Amendment defender. And third, we've got to open our small businesses back up. Small business owners know that they need to protect themselves, they need to protect their families, their employees, and their customers. If they don't do that, they won't have any customers. And yes, we need to protect the most vulnerable. My grandmother is 96 years old, lives here in town. And as a small business owner, I'm not going to do anything to put her at risk. But we have to allow, and we have to work with the state to allow our small business to open up more capacity, allow them to do the right things, trust them to do the right things, because opening up capacity is their only path to long-term viability. Thank you.
Thank you. Closing thoughts, District 3, Tim Dolan.
Thanks, Kevin. And again, just like I'm sure everybody's going to do, I want to thank Kevin, thank Melissa for keeping the time, thank the Elk River Chamber of Commerce, Debbie and her staff for putting this event on, thank the City of Elk River for hosting. Thank you, Jake, in the back room. He's the one controlling all these cameras for everyone and making sure we look good. I want to take a little bit of, I'm going off script here based on some of the things that Andrew just said and some of the things that have been set up here. During these local elections, taxes are always a topic of concern, and everybody always comes into office saying, I'm going to lower taxes, we need to lower taxes. Lowering taxes in a growing county that is one of the fastest growing counties in the state, with constantly shifting state mandates transferring the cost of services down to the local taxpayer, is next to impossible. And to Andrew's point earlier, saying that we're not competitive due to our tax structures, just flat out wrong. In 2016, when I came on, the average private investment in this county was around $80 million a year. The 4 years that I've been on this board and the other people have been on this board, that's gone up $50 million a year. You don't jump $50 million a year in private investment because you're not competitive. There's little to no correlation between property tax rates and the attraction of businesses. I know because it's my background, it's what I do. I've cited dozens of businesses in this county and the adjacent counties. The tax structure is almost never a concern. That is not me saying that I don't think taxes should be lowered. Tax rate is the important thing to me, and distributing that over, as Andrew said correctly, growing that tax base, making sure we have industry, commercial, and some other, a more diverse tax structure to spread that cost out over is going to be the key to that. Business uses less services than the taxes they generate, residential, assisted living, those use more services than the taxes they generate. So that diversification is the key. But again, I'll sign off on that. I just want to thank everybody for letting me represent them for the last 4 years now almost, and I look forward to serving you again.
Thank you. District 3, Ann Koszewski.
Okay, like everybody else. For having this as my first campaign during COVID, what a challenge. So I really appreciate the opportunity and the location and the forum to reach voters. Otherwise, we haven't had a parade, we haven't had anything. So I really, really appreciate it, I do. Thank you. In addition to the COVID challenges, my last name, right? So if elected, I'll just touch upon some things that are important and very important to me. I look forward to working with job creators to maintain low tax rates and investing in vital infrastructure. The next 5 years will be a period of economic transition. We need to meet the challenge by creating a business-friendly environment for job growth, more now than ever post-COVID. Less government, expansion of personal liberty, fiscal responsible. I am a supporter of law enforcement and the full funding thereof. I will not raise your taxes to give myself a raise. I am a dedicated supporter of the Second Amendment, and I support all efforts to make Sherburne County a sanctuary. I am in full support of our president and the work that he is doing to keep America, America. And we can start at the county level. Again, I thank you for the opportunity, and I believe that our county deserves representation that best aligns with the values of our county. And I think I'm that one for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Closing thoughts, District 5, Lisa Phobie. Mask off, glasses on, water. There you go.
Kevin's got the routine down.
Here we go. Thank you, Debbie and company, all of you tonight for offering us this opportunity. I appreciate my colleagues and candidates here. I believe an informed electorate is a really important part of our political process. So thank you, because with COVID, it's been really, really different. I chose to make Sherburne County my home 23 years ago. My parents decided to retire up in this area, and it was really important for me to raise my 3 sons by Grandpa and Grandma. So we moved up to this area. I raised my 3 sons. My parents have subsequently passed away. I'm grateful that they moved here because I love Sherburne County, and I'm so glad that they introduced me to this county. It's been a humbling honor to serve you for 4 years. What I've really realized and what I want to express tonight is, alone as one county commissioner, I have very little power or authority. The power and authority rests in the Board of 5. And I believe that we can sit up here and say we're going to do this, that, and the other thing, but unless you work and are in relationship with your colleagues, nothing's going to happen. So I really appreciate the foundation that we've built as a board, and I believe we've built a strong foundation for our staff as well as our residents. The board sets the vision and the tone and the policies, and then we get out of the way so the staff can do their work. We're a growing county. It's important to us to continue to provide a strong infrastructure to support our growth. I believe the reason I do this, it's pretty basic. Like I said, I love Sherburne County. I plan to live here for a long time and retire here. And I like making a difference in people's lives in little and big ways every day. And that's what you do at this table, and you have the opportunity to do. I ground my work in the principles of Catholic social teaching. I've worked in ministry throughout my life and also as a social worker. I believe that we really need to look at the needs of our time, our area here, and do what's best for the common good. I also believe that the intent of a county board is to be nonpartisan. I feel very strongly about that. I choose to not caucus, and I really respect that intent of a county board, and would like to keep that. Like I said, relationships are important. I've built relationships from the township level, city government, all the way up to the federal and the state legislature. I believe my experience and those relationships work really well for us in this county. I want to thank you for your vote on November 3rd. I look forward to serving you again for another 4 years.
Thank you. And Brian Lawrence.
Good evening, and thank you. My name is Brian Lawrence, and I want to thank the audience for taking the time to attend this evening. I want to thank the viewers for taking the time to watch the topics that were discussed and make some decisions on the things that were discussed and information that was shared. A few things I do want to share with you is I've had the privilege to live and farm in Baldwin Township, Sherburne County for over 25 years. I'm married to a beautiful wife. We have 4 children. In fact, our family is growing, not with grandkids yet, but we had our first wedding already, and the date for the second wedding is already coming up for my one of my second children to come up. And so our family is expanding, and many of my children, not all of them, but the ones that are being married, are already showing interest in wanting to live in Sherburne County and find a place to make a home and call their home in the future, which is wonderful for a father and for me and my wife to experience. Some things I want to share with you is I do reside in Baldwin Township. Baldwin Township, I serve as a Baldwin Township supervisor. Baldwin Township is the 3rd largest township in the state of Minnesota, 2nd to Big Lake, 3rd to White Bear. Sherburne County has some big townships that are larger and take more management than many cities out there. In Baldwin Township, we've seen a lot of growth, a lot of developments come through, a lot of different things. We have a mix of growth. We've got a lot of agricultural land still in agricultural production. We have some open space. We have a lot of business. We have many developments, many residents that love being in Baldwin Township as well and chosen to make Sherburne County their home. I've had the privilege of serving on the planning and zoning of the County Planning and Zoning as Service Chair, County Board of Adjustment, as well as the Waste Management Committee. In those committees, I've had a chance to see residents come in and try to request and fall within the rules, the ordinance that we have in Sherburne County to achieve their dreams and goals. What a wonderful thing to be able to be a part of, is to see local residents come and want to add on to their home, start a business in their garage or in the basement of their home, possibly just raise a family, maybe put a pool in the backyard. All those things come through Baldwin Township. And being on the planning committee, I get a chance to see those and hopefully, as a committee, help them accomplish those goals as well and set them on their way to live their dreams, live their ambitions within Sherburne County. Years of that service has helped prepare me to serve and seek this position. A lot of local residents have encouraged me to continue to run and seek the position of County Commissioner. I ask for your vote tonight. I ask that you'd support me as we come into the election November 3rd. And so I ask you for your vote for District 5 County Commissioner. Going forward, and what those committees that I shared with have taught me is I need to be a champion. I am a champion of the taxpayers and residents of Sherburne County, Baldwin Township, Livonia Township, Haven Township, Clear Lake. Those we all represent, all those areas in together. We need to be a champion of the businesses, watching our fiscal responsibility, being mindful of the tax authority that we have, and protecting the freedoms that we enjoy, not only here in Sherburne County, but in the United States of America, are something that we as county commissioners also need to stand behind as well. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And that'll conclude our event here tonight. Thank you to all the candidates who came out tonight, and thank you for those who also came out to watch. Thanks for watching at home. Again, this was broadcast live on Elk River TV channel 180, and it will be rebroadcast there. It will also be on the Chamber's website and social media pages, so make sure you check out the Elk River Area Chamber of Commerce for more information on that. There are other forums coming up as well for City of Otsego, City of Elk River, and District 30. So check out the Chamber website for more information on those. Thank you and good night.